Heyo, welcome to Geek Freaks. I am Frank, and in this episode, I'm joined by Thomas and Jonathan. We have a lot to go over. We're going to be talking about Ninja Turtles going back to the theaters, James Bond casting updates, and we're going to be digging into Ironheart and the New York Times Top 100 Movies list, going over what they hit and what they definitely miss. It's a fun one. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started. Which side character from any franchise deserves their own series? As you guys think about it, I'll start off. There's a comic book and movie called Kick-Ass, and I think the side character Hit Girl deserves her own movie. Frankly, not even a movie. Like, let's get a Prime or HBO Max series about Hit Girl. She's such an incredible character and far outperforms Kick-Ass for most of the time. I think that'd be a really cool character to follow along with. Film it like Scott Pilgrim, it'd be dope.
Have you guys watched Incredible Kimmy Schmidt or the Unbreakable
Yeah,
Kimmy Schmidt? Okay, so Titus Andromedon, her friend,
Hell yeah,
from that.
Titus, great.
He's like the energy in the room, such a fun character. I was like, dude, he should have his own show for sure. So he'd be hilarious. Probably the best fitting one for this, because it almost happened, was Dwight Schrute from The Office. They lined up his character to have a spinoff series, and then it never came. Like, oh, you guys
just
are killing me.
Schrute Farms spinoff series?
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah. All right. Just follow him in this whole adventure where he leaves the paper industry and decides to, go headfirst into farming with his family.
How dope would it be if if Dwight decides to run for mayor for his local small town? That would be, I would love to see him in politics. He'd be so fun.
he's too volatile, so it'd be hilarious. But then,
but his policy,
of course,
he's like 2 onions a week for every family or something like that. It'd be crazy.
Beets. It's gotta be beets, man.
Exactly.
Beets. That's it. I was trying to remember what he farms. I've got onions on the mind right now because Jonathan had a bunch of onions. Thomas, what do you got for us?
Gosh, you kind of took some of mine. I was like, man, would Ron Swanson would be great. Would what is his name? Schrute. Dwight. Yeah. I thought that would be a good one too. But now I kind of got to go with something generic. So I think I'm going to say Nightwing, just because. Why don't we have a Nightwing movie by now? Like, everybody knows Nightwing. They've even tried. I mean, he's been kind of the lead in a big video game recently. It's like, man, why don't we just do that? Like, have a whole movie. I know James Gunn talked about it, but we need it. Especially
his stories where he has to be like a cop too, because he's a cop and Nightwing. So that combination, it's like Bruce Wayne is rich. So that's fun and all, but when you're Nightwing, it's like law and justice and stuff like that are all different sides of that coin of it that he's playing.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
And he's like brighter too. He's like, he almost has that Superman positivity, Yeah. And that would be nice to see in a world that's obviously, it's not Gotham, it's Bloodhaven, but still, that would be great to see. Like, I learned they kind of tried to do it a little bit in that one show. Remember Titans? That was on HBO for like a split second.
Great show.
Yeah. That first season was awesome. It was really sick. And he goes from being Robin to Nightwing. That was pretty epic. Like that was close, but it wasn't about him. I think you could even go deeper there with that character. So cool.
Yeah. I like that. And then the Superman Batman thing reminds me, like, if Red Hood pops up every so often to be the Batman-esque character, that's like a problem because he's too dark, would be fun to have them play off of each other.
Yeah.
One of the ones I really liked, Randall Womanack 20, that's it. Shuri should get her own standalone Black Panther series. Not just part of like the Black Panther banner, but just be like, hey, she's doing her own thing over here and Black Panther's doing his thing over here.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea as well.
Would we count Wakanda Forever? Because she kind of is the main character.
Right, but what if Wakanda Forever? Because we're going to get the Black Panther movie. Yeah. So then from here on out, you have Black Panther movies because of T'Challa that's in that movie coming up at the end. And now Shuri has her own set of movies too. That's like her Black Panther is more tech-based, and his Black Panther, like there'd be 2 Panthers basically, and his Black Panther would be more like forceful and Batman-esque like he is, all the time anyways.
All right.
It'd be interesting to see.
Dig it.
That's a good idea. That was on Threads. Let's go ahead and get into our news. First off, have you guys heard of the book Project Hail Mary? It's a very popular book from the writer that did Martian with Matt Damon, the movie that was, that story. Have you guys heard of that book?
Not heard of the book, but I did see the trailer.
Yeah. So I've been hearing about this book like crazy because my TikTok's been suggesting it to me for about 1.5 years now.
Hashtag book talk.
And so it's on my reading list. Book talk gets me every damn time. Those bastards. So I've been meaning to do this. Now we have the actual trailer out. Not knowing about the book and the story beforehand, what did you think about this trailer? What was your initial reactions?
Yeah, it looks really good. unfortunately not the best reader. So when they take a really good story and put it in movie form, I cheat and I skip reading the book and just watch the movie.
That's 100% fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair, man. This trailer, though, surprised me. Didn't know this was coming. Didn't know that this was on the horizon. I'm like, wait, Ryan Gosling looking like Castaway? What? He's in space? What? He's by himself? And then The Martian came on and I was like, oh, makes sense. The Martian writer loves putting people by themselves in space. Like, that makes sense. Right. But then it gets crazier as the trailer goes on. There's the whole kind of Interstellar aspect to it. But then there's like, is that a spoiler? Because it's in the trailer. Like, there's aliens. I was like, what?
It's actually, from what I understand of the books, and again, I will be reading the books before this movie comes out, or the book, the aliens, it's kind of like mostly about that part. I actually, when watching the trailer, I was like, this feels like false advertising because they're not talking about the alien at all. Then they introduce the alien, which, by the way, like talks to him and stuff like that. It gets to the alien quickly. Yeah, is my point. And in the trailer, it felt very much like Interstellar. And then it was like, oh, by the way, here's an alien to throw it off. But at the very end, I thought that was a smart way to bring in probably the less sci-fi fans into this idea, so they don't turn it away immediately. And that, like, of course, Martian was fantastic. But if Martian ran into an alien on the planet, it would be a very different movie.
Right.
So it's good to kind of step softly.
And we've talked about before too. Sometimes the trailers give away the whole plot, the whole story. Sure. So it's nice to see that you got a taste of it. You know, there's going to be an alien involved, but you're not given the whole beginning and end and waste your time to even watch.
You guys are nailing it. Yeah, I think trailers recently have been doing a great job of that. Like back to old trailers where it was just about getting you to the theater to watch the movie and not telling you the whole plot. Like this, to your point, I think that this is that trailer because I was like, when it first grips you, our son is dying, and you're one of the only people that understands how this all works, and we're going to send you up. It's 11.5 light years away or something, whatever the math is. And then you're like, oh, okay, wow, he's the only guy. This is crazy. And then there's that whole kind of Armageddon side to it. And then he gets to the planet where it's seemingly the only son is still alive. And then there's this weird structure, and that structure looks super cool. It looks crazy. It looks nothing man-made. And then the alien part. And I was like, whoa, okay. But I was hooked from the beginning without even knowing too much more than just he's the only guy that can go up and do this, which I think Ryan Gosling has been this leading star in a bunch of movies lately, but we forget sometimes how much of an actor he really is and how much chops he has in acting. I think this movie is going to show it. And who knows? Maybe it gets in there because I don't know if Matt Damon got an Emmy or an Oscar nod for The Martian, but I wouldn't doubt it just from the looks of it if this gets him an Oscar nod with Ryan Gosling.
What is your approach when a movie looks really good and you know it's based off of a book? Do you guys generally try to find the source material, or are you like, nah, I don't need it?
I don't even try because there's so many people like the Harry Potter fans who are like, oh my God, the movie's terrible. It's nothing like the book. And it's like, I don't want the book to ruin the movie sometimes, especially if you know the movie's around the corner. If it's 5 years out, okay, then I can get to the book. That's fine. But if it's coming out this year, next year, then it's like, no, I'm just going to enjoy the movie. If it was a good enough movie, I mean, it's hour and a half, 2 hours to enjoy it. Then, okay, I can go ahead and spend the, 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever, to read the book. Afterwards, but if it's a terrible movie, then it's like, it might not be worth my time to even rent the book or buy it.
Oh man, yeah, I follow your lead. I think for me, I've had better success watching the movie than reading the book, and I'm notorious for starting the book and then watching the movie and then getting mad at the movie because it's not like the book. So I think I'd rather watch the movie than read the book. What about you?
To me, it's all about like, is it short? Is the book short? Okay. Like this one's like 500 pages, whatever, but that's the entire story. I mean, as a Game of Thrones fan, I'm like, fine, I can do that for sure. Like the Hunger Games or whatever, I made sure to read all those first. But if it's too long, then I'm like, I cannot wait to watch this movie because there's no other way I'm going to consume this content. But you're so right. You made a great point. Like you can kind of ruin the movie for yourself when you do that, You
know what's good too, though, is if you watch the movie and it's so good and you still don't feel like reading the book, I would buy the book just to have it, just because the movie was so great, and just keep it on the shelf. I maybe would tell myself someday I'll read it, but I might not. I might just have it just
drooling hearing you say that right now. They're like, that's our favorite customer.
Right. Right.
I own the Prestige book because I've never read it, but it was like the movie's so good. I wanted the book that it's based off of, and it's just sits on my shelf. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, guys. So next up, we got Ninja Turtles. It's coming back to theaters. The original Ninja Turtles movie we grew up with from 1990. It's coming back to theaters for the 35th anniversary.
Yes.
That's pretty exciting. It's going to be August 17th and 20th. Mm-hmm. Are you guys stoked to see Ninja Turtles back in theaters?
Oh, man, me and Thomas just watched this movie pretty recently, actually, for Challenge Accepted.
Oh, really?
And watching it again
does it hold up?
It absolutely does, Jonathan. And I took more away from
effects, right?
Yeah, it's the practical effects. You know what though? Like, do you remember that the part where I think is it Raph? One of them gets really hurt and they go back to the farm or whatever to kind of restore themselves a little bit. That scene is so much better as an adult than it was as a kid. Because as a kid, it's the slow part that I want to get past so they can start punching things again.
Right.
As a kid, it's incredible. So it's like, yes, I'm totally seeing this in the theaters.
I want to as well. You nailed it. Yeah, it hits so much harder. And then it's like these 4 sons who are losing their dad, and just they only have each other because they are so different. But man, what they can do in those costumes too, flip around with like 100 pounds of like rubber or whatever it is crazy, man. But I will say, lastly too, I saw Bobby Herbick, who wrote the movie. I think at WonderCon he was talking, and dude, if you ever see him come up at a con, go watch his panel. He is incredible. Like, he's such great stories, and like Ninja Turtles completely changed his life. And it was one of those things where he wasn't supposed to be on the movie. Then he got brought in, and he's met like World Series Yankees and like presidential candidates and like the most ridiculous people because of this movie. And he's just a fantastic storyteller. So just for that alone, I want to go watch it. Just because hearing what he had to say about it, dang, was it good. But yeah, I think this movie still holds up for sure.
So I think we need to do a top 5 episode, because this is a great idea of bringing back, not remaking, not rebooting. Just take a classic movie, itch that millennials nostalgia by putting it back in theaters. Why not? So I think we should do a top 5 at some point of top 5, 90s or 2000s or classic movies that we would see in theaters again.
John, you bastard. Genius.
I nailed it. I know.
All right. Jonathan just called it. Not next week. In a couple weeks. Top 5 90s movies that should be brought back to theaters. Jonathan just called it. That's perfect. Soon. You better be on that episode, Jonathan. I want to hear schedule.
For sure.
Scheduling snafus be damned, okay?
Yeah.
Well, when we're researching this, I just wanted to mention real quick, Turtles Unmasked, a new like mini documentary that they made that's going to air before the movie actually starts, that shows unseen footage, deleted scenes, and it's going to have like actual raw camera footage of them filming behind the scenes, and the director Steve Barron will be doing commentary over it. And what was really nice, when I was kind of doing some research on this from beforehand with Challenge Accepted, Steve Barron, people say the reason this movie was so good and so memorable is because the studio was just like, hey Steve, we don't know anything about TMNT, do something with this, and he had full complete creative control over it, and they didn't have to worry about the studio constantly looking over his shoulder. So it'll be nice to hear from him on this project. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's classified as like an indie movie, because there was not
it is.
Yeah, because there was no major studio attached to it. That's why he kind of got like free ring, which is crazy to think, because I think it's influential to all of us growing up when we did.
Oh yeah. All right, John. Top 5. You got a good idea. That was smart.
Yeah. So speaking of new things, or I guess old things coming back, James Bond is getting an update. They landed a superstar director in Denis Villeneuve, and there are 3 potential actors that are coming up. We got Jacob Elordi of, I'm not even going to say the first one. I'm going to try to think of Brightburn or Saltburn.
Saltburn,
man, the bathwater. If you know, you know.
Oh, I know. Yeah, if you know, you know.
Tom Holland, of course, of Spider-Man fame, and Harris Dixon. I know he's in a bunch of movies lately. Was he in the Iron Claw?
He's the like most famous one, the oldest one that dies first.
Yeah.
In Iron Claw. Spoiler alert. Sorry for Iron Claw.
What a good actor.
Watch that movie too, by the way.
What a good actor.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? Director, actors, who's your top choice?
I'm gonna have to go Tom Holland, because the other guys I don't know all that well.
Yeah.
But I think Tom Holland's gonna handle it for sure.
But that might be the problem, right? Tom Holland's already kind of too famous and busy, and he wants to retire.
Recognizable.
So do you think this is a good time to give somebody else the reins?
I mean, how do we tell him you're not allowed to retire?
Yeah, for real.
Get him in a hard contract. Like, sorry, buddy, you're too good.
I'm going to have to push back on the Tom Holland. And this is why, not because I don't love him. I do. He's the best Spider-Man to me. Like, he's my favorite. Mm-hmm. But the thing with him, like when I think about James Bond, and I know they're going younger, is you really need to be smooth and you got to be suave. And not that he can't do it.
Yeah.
But if you watch the Uncharted movie, Like, I don't feel like he nailed that. And I think for James Bond, like, you absolutely cannot miss on that aspect of his character. Now, Jacob Elordi, I think, can do it. But the thing is, he's like 6 foot. I don't know. I'm going to make it up because he's not this tall, but he's 7 foot 1 million. And he's just so freaking tall. I don't know if like that would necessarily fit, because I think that would be hard to maybe pull off.
A lot of stunts and James Bond famously does all his own stunts.
Right.
So you're talking about an industry that has pretty tight control over how tall you can be, blocking it as well.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you have to like find new ways to do this with new stunt equipment. It would be very hard with Jacob, but he does have like the good, like in the bar kind of James Bond, dude, like the chatty one.
Oh my God. Him sweet talking. James Bond always has notoriously the most beautiful women, right? With the ridiculous names. Jacob Elordi would crush those parts. You like when you watch him do things, you're like, he could talk me into anything. He could talk me into buying a cereal bowl full of nails. Like, I'd probably eat it. Like, he's that guy, right? And then Harris Dixon, I find he's the most mysterious out of the group, because he does kind of play these deep characters. I think he's also cast in the new Beatles movie. And so he's a very serious actor. I think he could nail that. He also did this war movie, I think, with Alex Garland recently too. But I think he might be the number one pick, Jacob Elordi number 2, and Tom Holland for me probably number 3.
So the reason I think Harris was number 1 right now is I think he's the most Daniel Craig of the 3 of them.
Yep.
And when I hear Jacob, I think of Pierce Brosnan. And for the modern audience, I think we're going to want to still stick with the Daniel Craig version. I think that still plays well. So you go with Harrison, because I think he would be of the 3, the brawler. And that's going to look good on camera in comparison to Jacob, who's the sweet talker, and Tom Holland, Uncharted. I loved him in Uncharted, but that's a character that's allowed to be messy, and this isn't. Mm-hmm. So I don't think Tom Holland would play that very well. As much as he is the best Spider-Man.
He might be the best of the stunts though, too. But you're right. Like,
fantastic point.
Yeah. But it's some great choices though. I mean, but it's just crazy to think that these 3 young guys, I mean, outside of Tom Holland, would not even been considered for James Bond. And now these guys are going to be, this must be what our parents felt like when Pierce Brosnan got announced, or, even Daniel Craig, I know, got a lot of pushback because he wasn't the best looking, right? But
very different Bond.
Yeah, but when our parents grew up with Sean Connery, all of a sudden it was like, wait, Pierce Brosnan, what the heck? This guy? He's not tough.
Yeah.
But I loved Pierce Brosnan as a kid. So maybe this worked.
Crazy thing I want to just throw out there towards the end of this conversation to think about. So normally when I'm thinking this, I'm like, what actor can we elevate with this James Bond role? But James Bond's getting long in the tooth. And if you do pick Tom Holland, it's the other way around. Tom Holland would then make the James Bond movies cool again. So there might be something there too.
That's true.
So something to think about.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
We got Ironheart that came out this week. We had 3 episodes. We're recording this right before the finale, 3 episodes. So we're going to talk about the finale next week. As we dig into this, Thomas, you're going to take the lead on this one, but then we're going to kind of speculate where we think the story might go. And you listeners, very good chance already know the answer. So we might make a fool of ourselves, and make sure you yell at us on social media. We love that. So Thomas, what did you think about this?
I'm too sensitive.
I'm pointing you guys at Thomas.
Yeah. You know what? I will say this. We talked about it in depth on Challenge Accepted. I like the way that this connected from Wakanda Forever into the show. I thought it was smart. I thought it works. People have been quick to point out they don't like her character because the way she starts off, she doesn't have money. She is doing all these scams to basically pay for her suits, her inventions, everything. People didn't like it. All right, that's fair enough. If you take all that away, I think that there are a lot of similarities between her and Tony Stark. And I think that some people are bringing their own personal bias maybe to it, but I do think there's some similarities there. Now, that doesn't excuse the story. Now, I think just because Dominique Thorne, I think, is doing a good job doesn't mean I necessarily love her character. Doesn't necessarily mean I love the story either. It's okay. And this definitely feels like it's old Marvel when it was Chapek involved before Iger came back. Yeah. This feels like a movie that was split into 6 parts for me, because where the episode ends, it's like, what? That's the ending of this episode? Okay, good thing there's another one. So it's a little funky. Things are overly convenient in the story. It feels off. It feels weird. But what I do give you credit for is that the CGI does look incredible. It is adding a level of depth to Riri Williams that wasn't there in Wakanda Forever. And we're seeing some new cool settings. Like we're in Chicago, which is a new place that the MCU hasn't touched yet. And it looks badass to see the Iron Man suit flying around there. But is it great? Not for me. I think it's just okay. I think it could potentially get a lot better with the last 3 episodes, but it's not amazing for me yet. It's kind of just sitting at the middle of the pack. What about you, Frank?
One of the key problems I have with this show is the performances. I mean, we have a lot of people that we know that are kind of lauding these performances. I would say it boils down to 2. Dominique Thorne and Anthony Ramos do wonderful jobs. They are definitely worthy of the leading roles for these. Dominique Thorne feels like a character that's truly going up and down, but driven by such passion and desire and just gumption, right, for lack of a better term, that she will make this world hers. On the other side of that, Anthony Ramos feels like he's slick, cool, and just one step ahead of the devil, and frankly, very much is. Mm-hmm. And so that character, I think, I'm like, oh man, give me more Hood. I hope I get to see some spin-offs with them. I hope I get to see this guy going against Doctor Strange at some point. Whatever, he's a very fun character. But yeah, so I think the performances are basically with those, but the rest of the cast just don't feel believable to me. They don't feel like real characters that I would see every day. And I think this comes down to the idea of Disney just trying to make something for the kids, but it's like not kids writing it, so they don't know, like, hey, they still say cool and tight, right? That's what it kind of feels like to me.
Yeah.
And just missteps all over the place with the performances.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, man, the Hood is so cool though. Like I agree with you big time. You know, like when he got announced, like everybody was like, "Oh my God, the Hood! This is so cool!" Because he is this character where you're like not really supposed to like him. Like we talked about earlier, where what's his name? Something Drake from the Uncharted series is a little bit messy. He's not like he doesn't perfectly land everything, and that's kind of the Hood in the comics. Like he's badass, but he's not like Spider-Man. He's not like the Punisher or Hawkeye, who's an expert marksman. He's just like a dude that got, who stole a magical hood and then got these insane powers. And so he's a little bit messy too, but Anthony Ramos plays him so smooth and so cool and like with such swag. So yeah, they're carrying the show, but you're right. Everybody else just feels a little bit like, what? Like, what is this dialogue? Like, what are we doing here? Like, I also like, I don't even understand the plot sometimes. Like, they're like, we got to break into this and do this and whatever. And I'm like, wait, what's the plan? I don't get it.
Why are you doing that? That happened a couple of times. Like, why is everybody in this room doing these things? And it feels like there are so many scenes that are thrown in for, like you were saying before, comes from the Chapek-era. So there's like, hey, we just need to have this much hours of view time. And it's like, that's not how things are supposed to be working for Marvel. And so there are a lot of times where like, you can cut that scene out because it doesn't move the story forward. And that scene too, so many times that happens.
Right.
I think episode 3's heist is by far the best part of it. It should have been what the entire series was based around, as a series of heists. And then confrontation amongst the 3. But unfortunately, at the end of episode 3, right away, like, okay, the heists are probably not going to work anymore because of the events of that episode. So it's like, shit, that's the part you guys should have focused on and you guys didn't do it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, there is 3 heists, right? There's a heist in the first episode, but it's like, wait, why can they just, it's like when everybody can just fight, without a reason, you're like, why? It's just like overly convenient. Like what Daredevil did really good in Born Again was like, even though they weren't like the best fighters, like it felt real. Like when the cops try to beat up Matt, it felt like very real and visceral. Like this feels like stage fighting. This feels like all of a sudden everybody's so like Shang-Chi. And you're like, wait, what? Yes. And then the episode 2 heights was cool in theory. Still had no idea what they were doing till the end. And then episode 3 was finally like, this kind of makes sense. I think you're super on track from what I could tell. Again, we're talking from the past. So if you're like, this doesn't happen, well, you have knowledge that we don't have yet. But anyways, like you said, what they're trying to do is, by getting these contracts signed, is not to get money. It's not to get stake in these companies or anything. It is Mephisto collecting souls. And I was like, whoa, that's such a cool concept. And then what gives me, I guess, evidence or credence towards this is in episode 3, when we see what happens to his cousin, the Hood's cousin, He comes back and he's all in this rage and he throws the hood and then like lightning strobes and the red glow comes on. You feel Mephisto there, right? And so, yeah, I think the Mephisto of it all is like really, really cool. And I think that's a cool concept.
Yeah, the key idea is that there's been so many times throughout these heists and things like that where they've been offered just straight up cash. Here's money, here's a check. And he's like, no, I want you to sign a contract that I own part of your business. And it's like, that doesn't make sense for this gang. The only thing that makes sense is if you're out to collect the contract part. And that's because you want signatures for Mephisto, which means that the Hood is out or are playing, I guess, his own crew. Like he's not even letting his crew in on the plans. So, you know, they're going to turn on him at some point too, which makes sense for what the show is. It's probably going to be a thing where like, you know, Ironheart has her crew now, type of thing like that. Like you could kind of feel like that's what this is going. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't even thought about like where the crew goes after this. And I think that's the sad part too. It's like, I don't necessarily care.
It's so forgettable.
Yeah. Like I don't, I'm like, you know, like I'm sure they're all good actors, but they're not really like, even the other guy who we find out is Ezekiel Stane, who, you know, Obadiah Stane's son. He plays it so weird. Alden Ehrenreich, who played Solo from Star Wars or from the Solo movie in Star Wars, which was a decent movie. But man, I do not get his character either. I don't know why he's doing what he's doing. Like, why does he have all this crazy tech? You know, like I know they showed us and it kind of, I guess they maybe explained it. I still doesn't make sense to me. He's just a weird character. So
weird character. I feel like he's forced in there to tie it to Tony Stark more, to try to give that whole idea to try to save it somehow. But frankly, we don't care. And I do believe that by episode 5, he's a villain, not the villain, a villain, and will be a very throwaway character.
Do you think this would have done better if it was just pushed together into one movie?
Yes.
Or is it okay? Because it sounds like the pacing and stuff would just make more sense if it was all laid out at once. But still, it sounds like the writing, it's too many plot holes and filler and stuff that just doesn't jive very well either.
Yeah.
Or maybe some of that was put in to help break it into episodes. I
think the problem is that they probably added stuff, or you know what would have normally been left on the cutting room floor. They added stuff to make up the episode count. Because we got to be honest, like there's a reason that Disney's releasing this thing in 2 chunks of 3. They want it out the damn door. They don't have the faith in this thing. They've changed how they do things. This was filmed and written and stuff like that like years ago. So it's all these things that are just like, this is such a throwaway project that it sucks because there's some real great characters here that deserve their time in the sun. They're not going to get it. This will be aired and forgotten about as fast as possible. It'll go to the ways of Acolyte, where there's still people today who are like, oh, bring back Star Wars Acolyte. No, dude, it is dead. They didn't even use a tombstone on that grave. It's gone. You know, it's not coming back.
We'll see more rereads.
At least they're trying, though. We've talked about how we want to see some original kind of one-off characters that are less known and stuff like that. So at least they're trying. It's just a swing and a miss.
I think that's such a good point. But I also feel like you can't do that at the expense of your biggest characters, right? Like even Hulk, the way Hulk was used in She-Hulk was kind of, maybe this is dramatic to say, but it was kind of disrespectful to his character. Like he was just the punching bag to move her along. And it's like the legacy. One thing, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with this because I do like Riri as a character, but people are cutting her at the beginning. She does this little monologue saying like, oh, do you think Tony Stark would be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire? And people are destroying that online because they're using the clip of him. He built all this in a cave with a box of scraps, you know, and like, I mean, he did. He built the first Mark I in a cave with like just things he figured out. He built his own arc reactor out of spare parts. So it's like, it seems disrespectful.
He did have billionaires' money putting him through like schools, right? Did he go to?
He did.
Okay,
he did. Right.
I'm sure he was like naturally bright, but he also wasn't like a natural born genius, right? He did have to go like to school and stuff.
Well, there's nothing, you can't say he's not Tony Stark without the money, but you also can't say he's not Tony Stark without all the intelligence and his genius level intellect.
He's also not Tony Stark without the experiences like being in the cave, because we see he would have been a major douche, you know, if he didn't go through that kind of trauma.
I like to throw out there too, Howard Stark was also a genius of his age. So it is definitely genetics.
Right.
So I get the people that are like frustrated with that portrayal. They are right in so many ways. And it's like the comic book reviews would never fucking say that. But this TV show one, because you guys are trying to make her edgy and cool and Gen Z, you botched it, and you forgot that you're making movies for comic book readers sometimes, and you just messed up. And if you guys don't own that shit, fine. Ironheart will never be seen again, and it's your guys' fault because you guys can't follow the simple tea leaves that say comic book people like the fucking comic book stories.
Right.
Bruce Wayne's mom and dad got shot in an alley. They're not, dancing in Hawaii somewhere. Just tell a story like it already is. It's just, frankly, it's irritating having to defend shows that are good, but they don't deserve the time of the comic book readers because Chapek, as we've said already, did this time and time again. He would think he knows best. And it's like, that's not what you bought. You bought stories. Use the damn stories, not character names.
I know.
So.
Yeah, definitely. I also feel like anytime Marvel, at least Marvel Studios, when a Marvel Studios project insults the Marvel fans, it feels off.
Yes.
And like, again, I'm not trying to bring it up because I really, really, really wanted to like She-Hulk. And there's parts of it where I'm like, wow, that's a really cool idea. But that show was kind of insulting Marvel fans. People who watch the movies, and they were like trying to turn us into the joke. And that kind of line, insulting Tony Stark, is insulting the Marvel fans. So it's like, it is a weird choice. I'm curious to see how it ends because I've heard that the second part of this is way better than the first part. So
that's what I hear too.
Yeah, it could be, we could be eating our words, but and I think there's so much that they could do with this. Truthfully, I think we will see Riri again. I think we see the Hood for sure because. Anybody who is writing for this show, like not writing, but writing hard for it, like in a car, I think enjoys the Hood.
What would be your score out of 10 for the first 3 episodes of Ironheart? I know we didn't do that on Challenge Accepted, but do you have one yet?
I mean, because it would be in between 2 and 3, but we don't do like 0.5s on that. Or I mean, we don't do like percentage points per se besides 5. So I'm going to give it a 3 with the caveat. It would be between a 2.5 and a 3 for me.
Okay. So probably like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah. No, I'm going to go 6 out of 10.
I'm a 6 out of 10 as well. Slipping towards 5.
Yeah.
But I look forward to being back.
Yes.
A New York Times Top 100 article came out. I'm going to read the little clip for it. More than 500 influential directors, actors, and other notable names in Hollywood and around the world have voted on the best films released since January 1st, 2000. So this was their like top 100 movies voted on a lot of these people. And this list came out and I'm going through it and a lot of people I talked to were going through it and being like, what the f- is this doing on the list? Or why isn't that on the list? So I thought I'd pull together a couple of interesting like top 3 this or something like that in this for us to kind of break it down and go over it. This is a huge list. I don't expect that either of you guys have gone through this list, but neither have you. Okay, I'm looking at facial expressions are yes, Frank, you're correct on that. And I
have it open, but it's still a lot.
Here, let's go over it and we're going to discuss what we think should be changed or whatever. So top 3 directors and their films. So the top 3 directors, just off the top of your head, what do you think are the top 3 most prominent or successful directors since in the last 25 years?
James Cameron.
Okay.
I think they're going to put him in there.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably say Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, I could see that. Christopher Nolan's your go-to, so Thomas just took that from you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right, well, let's just say right now, top 3. The third one was Wes Anderson. That makes sense. After you think about it, like, okay, Wes Anderson makes the kind of movies that writers and directors would say are the best, say that you got to keep that in mind. Specifically for Royal Tenenbaums and The Grand Budapest Hotel, which that's my favorite of his movies is Grand Budapest. Second highest, and I thought would be number 1, is Christopher Nolan. Specifically for The Dark Knight, Inception, Memento, Oppenheimer, and Interstellar. So he has more movies than anybody else, but they're not as ranked as high as the next guy. Now, personally, I cannot imagine why Prestige is not higher on this list. I think that's a lack of attention to Prestige. I think it definitely beat up Memento of Christopher Nolan movies.
Definitely one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, Prestige is. It wasn't even like labeled in there. Like
no, it didn't break the top 100 by any of these people, and I think it should definitely be in there.
That's crazy.
The number 1 director is Paul Thomas Anderson. Yeah. For There Will Be Blood. All right, that movie is fantastic. That's the third overall movie for them. Overall, any movies. Next is Phantom Threads, and then The Master, then Punch Drunk Love with Adam Sandler. And I'm like, damn, Punch Drunk Love. I wouldn't assume that'd be in the top 100. So that would kind of throw me off a little bit.
Huh, interesting. That out of all his movies was one that I've actually heard of, though. Like,
Yeah.
some of those other ones I had never heard of before. So
You've seen There Will Be Blood, though, right? Just double checking before I challenge you that.
That's Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
baby.
That's one of those that when I see it on Netflix, like Django changed the same thing. We're like, just press play, you know? I'm surprised Quentin Tarantino didn't make the list. He's not, he's on this list, but he's only got a couple, or he's only got like 1 or 2 movies or whatever. But he should be the top 3. I think he's got some great movies, you know?
Django Unchained, Unglorious Bastards.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is actually one of them that did make the list.
It did?
Yeah. That and Inglourious Bastards are the only 2 that made the list, but they're pretty far down it. And I'm like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood feels like it should be way higher than that in this list.
Really? Yeah. Oh, I would feel like Django Unchained would be higher.
I agree. That's not on the list at all.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
So do we need to take the time to make our top 100 list? That's a big list.
Well, me and Thomas are basically doing this on Challenge Accepted. We're doing our top 100 list, right?
Over time.
Over time, it'll be years. I have a feeling that we're working on that.
I was just going to say 86. Yes. That's all I can say. Look up 86. That movie will make you cry your eyes out. I love that movie.
86 is Past Lives. Okay. And I have not seen that movie. So,
and then 85 you have seen, which is great because it's completely different.
Yeah. I know. How did that movie get on? Anchorman is 85 on the list.
It should be on there.
Well, I agree, but you would assume it wouldn't beat out Prestige. You know, that's what's funny.
That's true. That's true.
So I feel like superhero movies is probably the number one, you know, money making movies in Hollywood, right? There's only 2 superhero movies on this list. Can you guys think of the 2 superhero movies that would make it? I'll tell you, it's 1 DC and 1 Marvel.
Dark Knight.
All right, that is on the list. Number 90. Oh, no, I'm sorry, number 28 overall.
Black Panther.
And Endgame, right? Isn't Endgame like the biggest?
Nope.
Oh, Black Panther.
Black Panther's the other one. 96 overall. And that's no other Marvel movies. But I thought Endgame should have been on there just for how impactful it is. But I mean, if you think about it, like so much of my memory of Endgame is towards the end of the movie. The time travel stuff might not actually land super well with, mainstream audiences.
You have to remember Avengers 1 and earlier to like really enjoy all the time travel stuff.
That's true. That's true.
So it's like, but did Avatar make this list?
No, I don't think it did. Yeah, you're right. I don't think it did. Going over the list right now.
So they're really going for like tour movies. They're not going for like impact, which is weird. Like, I don't know.
But Black Panther is a really good standalone too. Might be part of it, like you're saying, with not needing the whole Avengers library.
I mean, this movie's fantastic, but 58 uncut gems, like what?
Yeah,
That
that's crazy.
movie is really good, but it doesn't feel fantastic. Like it. Yeah, but 58 even that means it far surpasses like Black Panther. And I'm like, I don't think so. Yeah.
Wow.
The movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix, it was 24 on here. I thought it was a great movie, but that wasn't well reviewed either, right?
It was one of those movies that was like not liked by mainstream, but loved by critics.
Okay.
So that's where it lies. Top 5 actors from the list. Number 2, I'll say, is Leonardo DiCaprio, and I think that's an easy one. Philip Seymour Hoffman threw me. He's number 3. Cate Blanchett and Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt, I mean, we have Moneyball, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Tree of Life. Who is the number 1 that just makes the most, critically acclaimed movies?
Can you narrow it down to 3?
Yeah, give us
I'll tell you this. I'll just tell you the movies that he's in. Gladiator,
Russell
The Master.
Crowe?
Nope. Gladiator, The Master, Gladiator
Denzel
and The
Washington.
Master, and Her.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix.
We just talked about Her. Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix as number 1?
What?
The most decorated of any of the actors on this list.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. I mean, he's a great actor.
He has played some pretty awesome roles, but
he has. But dang, number 1 though. Wow.
So looking over these movies and what movies we feel like are left off this list, a couple questions for us to discuss. What movies do you guys think best define this generation, this 25-year gap here? I'm going to throw out like Superbad. I think Superbad's a really good one that kind of defines this generation's younger group where they're kind of struggling with the mix of social media and real life. This combination of the two, they just don't play well together, So I'm going to throw out Superbad.
I was thinking The Martian is kind of I don't know. It's maybe not iconic of our generation, but a good movie that should definitely make the list at least.
Yeah.
The Martian. Yeah, it's not on the list.
I think
crazy.
I think if you don't give Endgame, I think you got to give Infinity War. Because Infinity War up to that point was a culmination of like 30 movies. And it's like that had never been done before. So like should have that movie on the list somewhere. Let's see. Is Up on there?
Up is on the list. Yes.
Okay.
The second highest Pixar movie.
Okay.
I'll put out there Get Out. I think was one where we had, a new level of horror movie with a black director, which was usually not something that was, very popular. It was able to tell a horror story and a social story, and just frankly is beautifully shot and well performed. And my God, that story hits you hard. It is one of those movies where when I watch it, I'm like, all right, let's go back to the beginning and watch it again. So Get Out for sure. It's on my list. Any other defining movies for this generation that like will be like, oh yeah, that's from that 25-year gap?
I think all of the Christopher Nolan Batman movies hit pretty well.
Yeah, I think to this day we're still putting them up as the standard Batman movies, whether we like it or not. The Batman did not make this list at all, and I mean that from a director's standpoint was very creative, but there must have been something there they just saw missing compared to The Dark Knight,
right?
Which could just be Heath Ledger.
yeah, right. The two movies that come to mind that absolutely crushed, but like were super depressing and well acted though, Logan and Joker. Like those movies were so impactful. I mean, the fact that the Joker made over $1 billion is still blows me away. Like that movie's great. It's incredible. But like I couldn't go watch it over and over again. I've maybe watched it 2 or 3 times and I think I'm good.
Right.
Like I'm good there.
But it definitely feels like a generational movie, like something that would like, oh yeah, that's when they took superhero seriously, I
want to throw on top of that too is Mad Max Fury Road. All 3 of those are the nostalgia type movies that we're living in these days, which I think is kind of iconic of this, at least the last 10 years, maybe 25 years or so, where we want to see, reboots and whatnot.
Yeah.
And Mad Max Fury Road did make the list, number 11. So very impressive.
Yeah.
That's so high. That's crazy.
I think it's the one of them that I actually agree with, frankly. Because I was like, that was like when everybody was going CGI, they're like, let's bring it back to practical effects. And it just shocked the world.
There's just so many movies on here I haven't seen. I'm like, if these are the best movies of, these years, how did I not see so many of them?
You should print the list and put it up on somewhere to watch them. And then that's, if you're looking for a movie to watch, at least that some people who care too much about movies have a list right here,
Right. Yeah. And people in the industry. So it's not just, some random YouTuber.
Yeah. I'm glad a Lord of the Rings movie made the list too, though. I think it would be a shame if a Lord of the Rings movie didn't make it.
It's that bullshit though. It's the Fellowship of the Rings. And it's like, no, Two Towers is the best of the 3. And, I think that's crazy to say it's not. But it's the kind of when they did the Oscars too, they wouldn't give them an Oscars for the first 2 movies because they're like, we'll give it to the 3rd movie. It's like, no, if Two Towers is the best movie that came out that year, it deserves its own set of Oscars. That's a very angry high school version of Frank that's complaining right there.
Yeah, you're not wrong though. Yeah, I agree with you. Like each movie should be judged on its own merit, not, because like this concludes the whole story. It's like, yeah, but like you don't get to that part without this one. I think each individual part should be celebrated.
There's a real lack of comedy movies in this list. Do you think that's because comedy movies are not taken seriously as a part of the art form? Or is it because comedy movies are just not done very well?
I see Borat is on here, but to be fair, Borat is less comedy, more like political statement. But I think it's easier to make to sell a comedy movie without having to put so much, artistic twist into it and things like that the people in the industry would appreciate.
So to your point, one thing that a lot of comedians like, if you listen to like Two Bears, or you listen to Bad Friends, or like podcasts that are hosted by comedians, they have all said they stopped trying to do they stopped trying to do acting gigs as much. They just focused on their stand-up. And by doing that, they got more acting gigs and they're doing more comedy movies. So basically what I'm saying is like, they knew that they weren't going to get roles because Hollywood moved away from doing comedy. So now they're doing their own, they're making their own movies basically. And yeah, I think it's a looked down art form. And it shouldn't be. And if you got to give Adam Sandler any credit, he's got 2 or 3 movies on this list.
Yeah.
It shows that a comedic actor can excel at drama. He's like, and I think they've also said, we're also seeing it now with this resurgence of horror, because they say horror and comedy are very close in style. And I think some of the best horror actors or horror writers for that matter, look at Jordan Peele, came from comedic backgrounds. So I think comedy, and I want to use this term, I'm putting this in quotes, comedy is becoming more highbrow in a sense. When you look at shows like The Bear, I will die on this hill. That show is not a comedy, but it's classified as comedy, but it's getting Emmys. So it's like, all right, if you want to say, comedy can get a prestigious awards, then I guess that works. But yeah, I think comedy is notoriously not given enough credit, and it shouldn't be.
To counter The Bear, I give you The Studio. I think it's a show I think it's a show that's super well made, like The Bear is, super well acted, very well written, but it's funny. The Bear is all those things and not funny, and somehow it's the best comedy. And I'm like, I think The Studio is better than you. I just finished it. It's so good.
I agree. I think The Studio is better at being a comedy for sure.
But also excels in all the places that everybody says The Bear excels in. I'm like, go watch The Studio or Hacks or something like that. Like they do those. Yeah.
Hacks is my number one. Yes, you're right. Comedy. Like if I had to do it, because it does, you're right. It has all the drama, all the tension, all of that, like Succession almost, but it has actual funny parts in it. Where The Bear is like, you're lucky if you get like one funny part in an episode.
Yeah, so. All you get is anxiety medication problems. So just real quick on this then. So 3 of the comedies that we're seeing here, we got Borat, Superbad's number 100, and then we have Anchorman. And I think the key with those breaking through that wall is that they did take chances. Borat being filmed the way it is, this documentary style. Superbad, which was a coming of age story that really brought it back to almost like a 70s camp coming of age filming style, And then Anchorman, speaking of 70s, was this idea of ad-libbing and bringing that into an actual motion picture, which is something that would usually only be saved for TV. And in that, with all the ad-libbing, you got the best of the best lines and put that together as a movie. And before memes was memes, like we would just quote Anchorman lines. So it had staying power, and the way I think Superbad did too.
I think those broke through to where, like you're saying, like we were quoting them for years. I mean, even still, you know,
my laugh.
People. I love lamp. Like I stuff all the time.
I love table. Are you just looking around them saying things? Exactly. I mean, absolutely genre defying both movies. You're no doubt. And I'm trying to think of what other crossover, because they're so different too. Even but Superbad was like, when people talk about Fast Times at Ridgemont High or The Breakfast Club was like my generation comedy. That's what Superbad was for us. Like, how are we going to get through high school? How are we going to like end school on a high note, or being kind of cool, or getting the girl we like us to like us back? Like, that's what Superbad, I feel like, was for us. And then at a lower level, then was like Euro Trip and stuff like that. Or like American Pie. And
Euro Trip is better than everybody gives it credit for, in my opinion. I think that's the best of that, like 2 to 3 year movie. And Scotty Doesn't Know song is a banger.
Still popped up. It's still trending. Like, it trended on TikTok recently. Like, that's how good that song is.
Oh, I'm so happy for that. That's cool.
I mean, this was like going around again, and I was like, dang.
That's cool. Okay, so the last bit here, we all review movies. We just reviewed 3 shows and movies today, and with Challenge Accepted, you and me do that quite a bit. What goes through your mind when you're trying to think of something that belongs in the top 100 list? What are the criteria you put it through? I'll start us off. I think it has to beat out the things in a very similar category. So when I say, Ghostbusters Afterlife is the best, or it needs to be in the top 100, and I'm not saying it is, but if that's the case, well, first off, it has to beat out every other Ghostbuster, and it needs to fit into that kind of family, a little bit of like a sci-fi touch, a little bit of paranormal stuff. Like, it has to kind of beat up things that are similar. So, like, for example, it has to beat out a Beetlejuice 2. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with that. What about you guys? What are some of your criteria you have for you?
I think uniqueness. I think that's where you're touching on. And when I'm looking through this New York Times 100 movies, like, it's kind of undeniable that all of these movies are pretty unique. The number one movie, in fact, you cannot, for people who say they know what the genre is, I would push back and say that it is almost genreless because it mashes so many things together, which is Parasite. I remember watching Parasite and being like, what is this? Is it a comedy? Is it a satire? Is it drama? Is it horror? Like, what is this? Right. And then you get kind of some Squid Games like elements to it. And I think that's the thing. There has to be a tinge of uniqueness. Even if you say it's like this, it's really not. Like when someone pitched to me, well, this is how the media, I felt like, was pitching Anora to me, which won movie of the year. And I still kind of push back. I don't know if it was movie of the year, but what I will say about it is I've never seen a movie like that.
Yeah.
I've seen movies that have pieces of it, but not this girl who is a stripper and a sex worker. And then all of a sudden there's Pretty Woman like elements to this movie, but then it completely takes this dramatic, one night of horror, drama, comedy mixed together. And uniqueness, I think, is what stands out to me. So, but not just in the storytelling, and also how it's shot. And case in point, another movie I would add there is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Mm-hmm. The uniqueness of how they shot that movie, not just because of just camera angles and stuff, but when you look at how they did it and you take the Daniels into account with that movie, it's shot sometimes like a music video.
Yes.
And that's what's unique. You put Michelle Yeoh right in the center of the frame. You get really up close and personal, and then you have flashing things behind her. And the whole set's moving behind her. It's just like, you don't see things like that in a major movie. That's taking swings. And a lot of these movies, when I look through the list, I see them taking big swings, both in storytelling and also in the way they're shot, in the way they use color, in the actors that they choose. I think that's kind of where my mind goes.
Touched on it before, but like I don't usually remember most of the plot of a movie or stuff like that. I forget everything, but I do definitely remember how it made me feel when I watched it back then, especially when we're talking about, movies from when we were kids. So I think a movie that's, whether it's romantic or dramatic or horror movie or comedy, whatever, if it really makes you feel genuine emotions, I think that's a good movie. And on top of that, like we were just talking about with Anchorman, if it's got one-liners or punchlines or, real big standout moments that are good enough to get stuck in your head, or that you joke around with your friends or something like that, it carries on outside of, the movie, then I think that's a perfect example of, a good movie.
I love that.
There's a lot of that on this list, I will say. I think we kind of nailed some of the things that they were thinking about when they put this list together, uniqueness and how it made you feel. One of the little things too, like there's a signature to a lot of these movies. The Coen brothers is on this list quite often too. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Whatever, stuff like that. And No Country for Old Men, that's the one I was trying to think of, where it's like there's just a signature that's in there that's like no other director can make that movie. Wes Anderson's real famous for that too. And so I think that's also part of this list. It's very contentious. There's been a lot of people talking about how like a lot of these movies are unknown. So how do they make this list and stuff? So hopefully it brings brings light to some unknown movies and gets us to revisit some of them, like The Departed, Bridesmaid. I mean, there's some really good ones on here. A Serious Man. Well, there's actually more Coen brothers on this than I thought.
Yeah.
We should do a Coen brothers month over on Challenge Accepted.
That feels heavy, but let's do it.
I know. Yeah, that Christopher Nolan one just about drained every battery we had.
Yeah, definitely.
We're going to link to this article. It's very well done by New York Times, and it's a, what do they call it? An interactive article, to where as you're scrolling through it, like it has moving elements where you can see screenshots and stuff like that moving along. And it's a very different kind of article. What I love about this article is AI proof. So AI won't find this article. You need to literally go to New York Times. That's why it has so many moving elements to it. Like you scroll down and it takes a while for the article to come up, because you have to actually go to their website to read it. And I really suggest you guys do. It'll be linked in the description, and let us know what you guys think missed the list and should be mentioned. There's quite a bit of them. Let's touch on the network. We have over on Challenge Accepted, we have the final 3 episodes of Ironheart, and we're going to be talking about all the things we got wrong from Geek Freaks over there. And we're going to be going over Superman and Lois, the pilot episode from the CW Arrowverse show. You challenged me to this. Why did you think that we should be talking about Superman? This Superman.
I think this is a great depiction of Superman. I think Tyler Hoechlin killed it. Okay, so Bitsy, who plays Lois, is a different Lois, is a strong Lois. This is a kind of modern Lois, and I think in a lot of ways. And I didn't necessarily feel like she looked like Lois, but as the show goes on, you're like, dang, she's an awesome version of this character. So I like it. I actually genuinely like this show, and I think he spoke very highly of James Gunn and what he's doing with David Corenswet. So, I mean, it's just kind of cool to see the whole DC family rooting each other on.
That's cool. It's been a long time since I've seen that Superman, so I'm looking forward to checking it out. I'm all Superman vibed out right now with the new movie coming up. Over on Geek Freaks interviews, we had an interview with tattoo artist Dan Henk. Dan is a fantastic person. I love chatting with him. And he's a tattoo artist by trade, but then they needed somebody to write some articles for a tattoo magazine. And so he started writing articles for this magazine and found out like, oh, I like writing a lot. So now he writes horror novels.
What?
Still being a tattoo artist, he does the art for his own covers and stuff like that. A man of two worlds. It is very interesting. So yeah, that's over on Geek Freaks interviews, guy. Check that out. That's cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Over at Distance Learning, they're going over the latest Netflix news, a plethora of Netflix news that they're going over the last couple months. So they're wrangling that all together. Phantom Portals coming out soon. I think one day after this podcast comes out, double checking that, is going to be Predator Killer of Killers, which is the animated movie over on Hulu. So watch that and then join them for a great discussion and see some behind the scenes stuff. And Disney Moms has a new episode out where they're discussing the top 5 Disney moms. And this list very much surprised me. I didn't even think about these Disney moms. Some of them are like Lilo's sister. I can't remember her name, but that's one of the top 5 Disney moms that they put up there.
Yeah.
Like, great idea.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
That was a good one. So check those out, guys. All the links to our network shows is in the description. Let's go to our recommendations of the week. Jonathan, we're going to start with you, man. What's your recommendation for the week?
So I don't know if it's a great recommendation, but I've been watching the show Murderbot. I've been trying to really get into it because it sounds good, but so far it just hasn't really drawn me in. But I'm gonna keep going.
But you're recommending it, okay?
Yeah. If I'm gonna suffer, you guys suffer with it. No. Yeah. It's got good bones, so I'm just hoping it grows. I hope it grows on me.
Most Apple TV shows have that, like kind of good bones. Like this is well made, so I'm gonna give it more time. Yeah,
exactly.
I feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. Dave Desmalchin too. I mean, he's a comic book writer, great actor. He's in it, and like, I kind of want to watch it just because he's in it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it too. What about you, Thomas?
Yeah, I got actually some comic books. I haven't really been watching too much, but 2 comic books that really stood out to me. I think they came out like a week or 2 weeks ago, but if you have it, one is Spider-Verse versus the Venomverse. Dang, it is so sick. If you like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse. Also, we didn't mention that the space movie with Ryan Gosling is directed by the directors of Into the Spider-Verse, which is so crazy. Yeah, that seems so random. But anyways, this comic book is insane. It's 2 teams. It's almost like a video game. They're trying to capture the base. And it's just a random teams put together. Obviously, we know Peter Parker's in there, but a different version of Miles Morales. And then this version of Peter, who's just like half Wolverine, who's just like bloodthirsty murderer. And it's just absolutely crazy. And on the Venom side, we got Eddie Brock, obviously, but then there's crazy Venom who just figured they should just murder each other's teams. And it is sick. You see it from both perspectives. The way they blend it together is beautiful. It's cool. It's interesting. It's just a really, really well done comic. And I think they're only out with issue 1 right now, but I would check that out. And then the last recommendation for me is Uncanny X-Men. They just wrapped up a 4-part series written by Gail Simone, who's been crushing it for a long time. But this also intertwines 3 different storylines. A new character from the Old South that gives you kind of Sinners vibes. It's like Old South, this Black woman, Miss Henrietta, and like what she has to experience brought into modern day. Then a new group of kids who are taken under the X-Men's wing, who all are original, very different quirks to them, different superpowers as well, which is great. And then old X-Men that you know and love, kind of all merging into this one final thing. And it was cool. It added some new X-Men lore. I was like, that's freaking cool. I'm glad this book exists.
Nice. By the way, since you just mentioned it, this isn't part of my recommendations, but it's a new one I'm adding right now. The day this releases, Sinners is now on HBO Max. And if you are, for some reason, a person who has not seen that movie, dear God, that's your required reading is to watch Sinners. It was so good. I literally watched it twice in one day because it was so damn good, and I'll be watching it tomorrow as well.
Do you think movie of the year so far?
I would say so far. I would have to say it is. We have a lot of this year to go still. We're in the middle of Blockbuster, so it's tough to say. But yeah, I would say so.
I would say so far movie of the year too.
Yeah. So my recommendation for the week is Taskmaster season 19 finale is this week, and I've preached to the amazingness of Taskmaster before, but I'll just say it's a UK show where they put comedy first, but they bring 5 comedians on to do a series of tasks. It's hilarious and one of my comfort watches. What's special about season 19, not only is it maybe my favorite season so far, it probably actually is. The American Jason Mantzoukas, who you guys know from The League, from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so many really funny things.
Invincible, right?
Is he? Oh yeah, Invincible 2. Yeah, who's he playing Invincible? What's his name?
The exploding Rexplode.
Rexplode. Yes.
Yeah.
So he's a fan of the show, so he just calls them. He's like, "Hey, do you mind if I come along?" And so, anyways, a great story there. But he ends up joining them, and he's on the show, and he's representing America better than anything else America's doing right now, and I really appreciate him for that. But he's also like, so the amount of times where I've just started chanting USA in my living room because of him. Like one of my favorite things is like the first episode. Oh, you have to do a task. They think it's really easy. That makes you look cool. All right, now you have to do the exact task backwards. You have to do everything in reverse, like even speak backwards and stuff. But his whole thing, like, what you have to do something cool. He's like, all right, he just whoops out a lock pick that he has in his pocket and breaks the lock on the house. And it was just like, USA, baby. Other people are like trying to like sing songs, or whatever. And he's like, I'm gonna break the lock on this house. Go, boom, breaks it, goes. And it's so bad. He is so, and like, it's Jason Mantzoukas. He does this a lot, but he's like, he finishes the test and he just flips the table over and he's like, yeah, America, walks out. And it's just like, yes. He is so good. And outside of Jason, it is just one of the best casts the Taskmaster have ever had. In 19 series is what they call it, but seasons for us. It is such a good season. And the finale is this weekend. It's all free on YouTube. God bless him over there. Alex Horn, who puts the show on. It airs on Channel 4 for the UK, and then they put it on YouTube for Americans right afterwards, and we get to watch it for free. So it's fantastic. Please check that out.
Yeah. Wow.
That is our week of Geek Freaks. Thank you, Thomas and Jonathan, for joining me this week. And a big shout out to our patrons. You guys make this so much easier. We love your support. Shout out to all of our patrons, both paid and unpaid. And we want to give a big thanks to you for listening to this episode. If you could give us a review, we super appreciate it, both on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Give us a review. If you do, I'll make sure to shout it out on social media. Post like, hey, this dude's hecka awesome because of this, and all that stuff like that. So 5 stars on both those apps. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and you guys have yourself a great